Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to What is America to You. I'm your host, Eric Dempsey, and we're coming at you from New York. Okay, before we start the show, really quickly, we really need this. Continue to give us likes, to comment in the comment section. We've been getting great commentary, and also we really need you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Just click that red button. It just means so much to us at the moment. We really need it. Okay, our next guest is a author, activist, gay icon, writer for The Village Voice and Out magazine. Also, he was a regular contributor to MSNBC's Countdown with Keith Olbermann. His novels include Downtown, Manhattan on the Rocks, and my favorite title, Fork on the Left, Knife in the Back. I can't say that without laughing.
That's great. Yeah.
As well as a compilation of selected columns published as La Dolce Musto, writings by the most outrageous columnist. He's appeared in many movies, but also he appeared in Cyndi Lauper's remake of Girls Just Wanna Have Fun from about 1994. In 2011, he was nominated in Out 100 as one of the country's most influential LGBT personalities. And my favorite is he knew Andy Warhol on a social and personal level. So, without further ado, let us introduce you to Michal Musto. Welcome to What is America to You. Good morning. How are you?
Thank you, Derek. Well, I sound amazing. I'd love to meet that person.
You are amazing. You are.
It sounds like it. Wow, I got to read my own Wikipedia page.
Okay, we're going to fire straight into it. I sent you a couple of questions, and these are important questions to me. The first one being, in the last 15 years or so, we have seen this acceptance of queer culture in mainstream media and in society. Queer Eye for the Straight Guy and RuPaul's Drag Race, and you'll see overtly queer guy on the red carpet, which is wonderful to see. But I wonder, is that just a cosmetic change? And under the surface, we obviously still have the issues of policy making, and the biggest thing of all, the education, whether people are teaching it from the pulpit or from schools or from their home, that gays are bad.
It's definitely not just a cosmetic change. Before I was even on the scene writing, there was something called the Stonewall Rebellion in 1969. That changed the modern LGBTQ community forever, because that was where the community rebelled against the cops for the umpteenth raid on them at a bar, the Stonewall. And the result of it was that it put the community on the map. We started mobilizing. There was the first Pride Parade the next year. And things have gotten better and better within the community since then, because we've mobilized more and more. We've become more and more visible. I started my column in 1984 in The Village Voice, and I was urging celebrities to come out. AIDS was on the rise at that point. It was essential that big, icons came out and said they were gay, to make it, to normalize gayness and to say there's nothing wrong with it and I'm proud of it. And they started slowly coming out, very slowly. Now we see so many celebrities are gay and proud of it. We see so much LGBTQ representation. So it's not cosmetic, but it can be seductive, because you might convince yourself, as you say, oh, everything's fine. We got our place at the table. That's not the case, especially with Donald Trump as president. He's repealing protections that were put in for our community by Obama and Biden, one by one, taking away protections and rights for LGBTQ. We are not anywhere near our place at the table. We are constantly fighting for our rights. And I feel that as a queer person, I don't mind saying the word queer. Some people don't like it. Write me a letter, whatever. I think I can't stand saying LGBT, BLT, QVC, whatever. As a queer person, I find that I'm in the weird position of being a responsible adult who pays taxes. I was an only child, was a wonderful son to both my parents. I'm a great loyal friend and a good writer, never missed a deadline. And yet I have to explain to right-wingers that I have a right to exist or a right to have equal rights. It's absurd. And as you see by Jerry Falwell Jr., who was preaching against, gay marriage, his marriage wasn't all too perfect, was it? It was more of a menage a trois, wasn't it? Which is fine, Derek. but then don't preach that monogamous gay people can't marry each other.
My daughter always talks about when Trump came into office, one of the first things they did was repeal one of the transgender laws, I think to do with the bathrooms. There's no necessity. What are we achieving by pushing back, as you say, the queer movement? What are we achieving?
It's absurd. And if you have a problem with gays getting married, then don't marry a gay.
It's so simple. I agree.
Derek, we have all these videos on Instagram or whatever of people saying, God doesn't make mistakes. Transgender people are defying God by transitioning. As these people are saying it, they have dyed hair, contact lenses, and a nose job. What God doesn't make mistakes? You know, there's so much hypocrisy. Just live your life. You believe in the Bible? That's wonderful. I don't. Why should you believing in something and also interpreting it by cherry picking nasty things out of it while ignoring all the nice messages? Why should that affect my life? And they don't even cherry pick all the nasty messages because they worship Donald Trump, the biggest adulterer in the world. According to the Bible, they should be like stoning him or something, you know. Oh, we're going to ignore, you know, we didn't see that page. We only saw, oh, here's the entire Bible results in just gays shouldn't get married. It's like the Monarch Notes Republican version of the Bible.
Yeah, and I mean, I was raised Catholic. I'm sure you possibly were too.
I was.
So I read the Bible, and one of the things that I say all the time is the whole thing about Jesus going to the lepers. That, to me, if Jesus came back today, he would go to, for instance, you mentioned AIDS earlier on, you mentioned Stonewall. He would be there saying, no, this is the right thing to do. These are my... And I'm not a believer, by the way, but I'm saying if he did exist and he came back, he would be like, what are you doing? These are my children. These are my people. You and I know that, so I'm preaching to the choir, which I don't want to do.
Well, Jesus believed in helping, welcoming, empathy, humanity, all the things that they ignore. They don't follow a single one of Jesus's teachings. They're building walls against Mexico, and they're demonizing immigrants, putting them in cages, people who are seeking refuge. Hating on gay. Jesus would not have approved of any of that. Yeah. I'm way more godly than these people, and I don't go to church.
I say the same thing. I'm more moral than all of you, and I'm the same. And I love it that you said you don't like the word LGBTQ. I'm glad you said that because I find it hard to say. And one of my friends in Ireland who's gay and said to me, he said, you are an honorary queer. And I thought that was the most greatest compliment ever. Because even though you're heterosexual, he said, you're outside the box and they look at you. Like I've been asked many times, am I gay? And I give Charlie Chaplin's answer when he was asked, was he a Jew? I do not have that honor. And that's genuinely how I feel about it. I think being gay is wonderful. It's wonderful. Anyway.
I could be like Glinda the Good Witch and like confer on you, or the Wizard of Oz. Just you are an honorary gay, and we'll give you like a Britney Spears album.
I would be honored. What I might do is might listen. I'd watch the video with the volume down, but I'm very honored by that. Okay, another question. What are your thoughts, Michael, on claims that Desmond Napolis, I hope I pronounced that name right, is being sexualized as a drag queen child?
First of all, I love Desmond. I've interviewed him several times. I love his mother. She is the most supportive and understanding of him. And she has had to deal with an onslaught of right-wing hate against this poor kid. This kid is proud. He's flamboyant. He loves RuPaul's Drag Race. And the only problem I've had, and I brought it up in my interviews, I'm very honest, and I say, well, how could he say he's gay? I interviewed him at one point when he was 9 years old, and he was saying he was gay. That's really too young to know.
Can I say this? When I was 5, I kissed a girl and I liked it. That sounds like a title of a song. I didn't mean that.
Here's an example of how you don't know your sexuality when you're young. I had crushes on girls, okay?
Okay.
As a kid, that didn't really pan out.
Right. No more crushes?
Gayest person who ever lived. No. I mean, I like Diana Ross. I like Cher and Bette Midler. That only proves that I'm gay.
Listen, I love Barbra Streisand. Do you remember the movie Kevin Kline? I think it was called Coming Out in about 96, 7?
In and Out.
In and Out, that was the one, sorry. And there was an early thing in it where he didn't know where he had buried a deep latent. And somebody said to him, come on, you know you're gay. What was Barbra Streisand's first album? And I'm sitting in the theatre with my best friend who's male, and I went, Call Me Barbara. And he goes, Call Me Barbara. He goes, see? So, maybe there's something there in that, but... I'm
starting to wonder about you.
Listen,
What was her second album?
Okay. Oh, good question. I think it might have been just called Barbra Streisand, no?
Yep, you're gay.
I'm honored to be told that. Brilliant. You mentioned RuPaul there, and my daughter is a huge fan of RuPaul. So when she knew I was interviewing you, I said to her, you want me to ask Michael Musto anything? And she said, oh, it might seem silly. So I said, I'm going to ask him, and he can tell me to go fuck myself if it comes to it. She asked me to ask you, what would surprise people about RuPaul? Obviously, you can tell me to go fuck myself.
Well, okay, RuPaul came to New York with two other friends from Atlanta in 1987. They moved here. They had been here before on visits. And RuPaul took over the club scene and was fabulous. In the 90s was really RuPaul's first chapter of incredible success. She had a talk show on VH1. She had the hit record Supermodel. This is now a whole new chapter with the Drag Race, and it's bigger than ever. What would surprise you is that Ru is actually very contemplative, very introspective, and very cerebral. It's not all just put on a headdress and be fabulous. RuPaul can be very quiet and has very, internalized moments. He's a complex, really brilliant person.
Michael, I think my daughter watches Drag Race like you wouldn't believe. So I go by a room and I hear that we talk about it. We talk about queer culture a lot. And she, both of us believe that he's one of the kindest people you could see just by watching him. I think he's a very kind person.
I think so, and all about peace and love, and and we couldn't be prouder because I used to be equally famous as RuPaul, and now I'm famous because I used to know RuPaul.
Well, after the show, you'll be famous again.
Okay.
Okay, my last major question is, many artists and entertainers could be and are often accused of appropriating the gay rights movement and the culture for their own benefits. If that's true, is it still good because awareness is being raised, or again, is that counterproductive?
Well, I believe in allies. We have people like Lady Gaga, and by the way, she's not an ally. She's bisexual, so she is part of the community. But she's been very vocal. In the old days, Madonna was a straight woman who was very pro-gay, and she really made a big difference in her time. Lady Gaga has been even more vocal. Madonna did it largely with innuendo and suggestion and catering to gays, and also spoke up. Lady Gaga has just been vehemently, she was pro-gay marriage, and she takes our case all the time. I don't think that waters down the message at all. We have to welcome allies. We have to welcome people that are on our team, because there are a lot of people, it turns out, who are not on our team. I didn't realize that as much until I got on Twitter, and you see all the hateful messages. We still have a lot of fighting to do. So, we can never water down the message. It just gets stronger and stronger. We get more and more people on our team. And it's great. Join the team, everybody.
Right. And I'm always on about it to the point that I go on about it too much, because I met this couple I was walking the woods with my wife one time, and I met this striking looking couple, and you could tell, lesbian couple, stunning looking. And one of them was like that. I can't remember the name of the actress that looks a bit like Elvis Presley. She's kind of a new star. Just escapes my brain. But we talked about it, and they said, we're trying to, one was a lawyer. I said, we're trying to change it from gay rights to human rights. And that was like, yeah, it is just human rights. It's like we talk about Oscar Wilde or Truman Capote, which we spoke a little bit in email. They're writers, incredible writers who happen to be gay. I'm a singer and a writer who happens to be heterosexual, although we're starting to question that, I think, from the barber.
We're beyond questioning at this point. I'm just wondering if you're a top or a bottom.
I reckon I'd be top.
But Derek, let me just say this. I'm all for using the words gay, LGBT, queer, instead of just saying human rights.
Oh, really?
I don't like soft peddling it to the public, like, oh, just pretend it's not really about gay. It is about gay. But even when they do soft pedal it and call it the Equality Act, which Taylor Swift got behind, and she's another wonderful ally, they still didn't go for it. The Senate wouldn't even look at the act. We're not even going to consider it. And Trump, as I say, has been taking away protections, especially for trans people. Trans people, first of all, are very vulnerable. It's really not easy to be trans and transition and live in this world. Trump is legislating all kinds of horrible things to make it even worse. And why do you think murders of trans people are on the rise?
Yeah.
Because those policies. And what are they fighting for? They want Caitlyn Jenner to be able to go in and use the men's room? Does that make any sense to you? Derek, would you want to look at the urinal to your left and see Caitlyn Jenner?
No.
Caitlyn Jenner should be in the women's room. She's a woman. What is the problem, people?
Michael, did you hear that horn beep just there?
What was that?
I heard a car horn beep. I think it was in your, but it's just when you mentioned.
I always bring my own sound effects.
When you mentioned Caitlyn Jenner, I heard beep. That's a bad joke. I'm not going to go any further. But, you also mentioned earlier about you encouraged a lot of celebrities to come out. So you were pretty responsible for Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh, I wouldn't say responsible, but I was saying she should come out. And then she and Anne Heche were literally making out in a lesbian bar in New York. And the media wasn't really, for the most part, even going there. Ellen and Anne had held hands at the premiere of Volcano starring Anne Heche, and the media just said Ellen came with her friend Anne Heche. It's like you could even shove it in the face of the media. They won't go for it because they're squeamish about it. So I teamed with Page Six. I got the scoop on them making out, and I broke it in Page Six. They gave me credit, and then I followed up in my own column in the Village Voice. Page Six is a big gossip column in the New York Post. With Rosie O'Donnell, I would always just say, come on, just come out. Stop saying you have a crush on Tom Cruise. Nobody's believing that.
And Bowie. She loved Bowie.
Well.
Who doesn't?
That almost proves she's a lesbian. But, yeah, I might be a lesbian. I had a crush on Bowie. But, no. But Rosie was not thrilled with me constantly writing that. But eventually she did come out with a vengeance. She called me a gay Nazi for outing her, whatever. We made up, dear friends, and she gave a beautiful speech at a roast of me 3 years ago. So we're all on the same team now. And Ellen is also a pal. She's going through a hard time now.
Yeah, I see that.
She needs to really rethink her attitude. Don't just fire producers under you, but rethink your own behavior. And I think she's doing that.
I agree. Going back to the transgender bathrooms, I wanted to say that, to me, at one stage, we just had bathrooms. It was bathrooms and people used bathrooms, and then we got civilized and we had ladies and gents bathrooms. Then we had wheelchair accessible bathrooms. So if we can separate them twice, 3 times, we can separate them 4 times. It's just incredible how much they will do to push down the queer culture. It's beyond me, to the point where I get very upset about it. But as I said to my daughter yesterday in a conversation, I can take a break from it. I can walk away. I can walk down the street holding my wife's hand. I never had to come to my parents and say, I'm dating this girl. I never had to worry about kissing a girl in public. I could have had sex with a girl in public and nothing would have happened. It upsets me greatly, but I can walk away from it.
But we're not even asking for separation. We're just saying trans women are women. They should be in the women's room. Trans men are men. They should be in the men's room. That's all we're saying. That's like a duh. It gets more complicated when people start increasingly recognizing gender nonconformism or genderqueer, which means you're either not male or female or you're both at different times. Some awards shows or festivals are changing the categories to not be gender specific. In other words, not be best actor or best actress, because that's too simplistic. I think in the future, the Oscars are just going to be best performance.
Do you think that's a good idea or a bad idea, just to follow you?
It's a good idea.
Okay.
But right. I think we should double, have 2 awards for best performance instead of putting every actor and actress together into one category. Meryl Streep would have competed against Robert De Niro in the old days. It's too much. Just have 2 categories: best performance, best performance.
That's good. I like that. Just really before we get to the Proust questionnaire, which we'll have a bit of fun with, I think it was back in around the turn of the 20th century where they really separated. Back in the day, men would wear silk stockings, powdered wigs, lipstick, and it was just like everybody did what they did. There was no gender line per se. And I might have this wrong. I read it years ago, but they really, around the Industrial Revolution, they really started to separate. Now men are going to wear this masculine type stuff. Women are going to be in the heels and the skirts and the stockings, and even perfume, which was probably called scent or whatever it was called. They said, okay, from now on, perfume for women. And they invented cologne in Cologne, Germany, spelled K-O-L-N, I think. But they changed it to the fancy French spelling with the C, cologne, how we know it. And that was a bad thing, in my opinion, to separate us that much, in society.
Yeah, you're raised with certain expectations. A girl wears pretty things and has dolls, and a boy doesn't do that. A boy plays with a football. I noticed very young, I'm not stupid, my mother's clothes were so much more fabulous than my father's. It's much more fun to flounce around in some taffeta than just a button-down shirt.
Yep.
So the thing I loved about in the 70s and 80s when I discovered the New York club scene, everything is welcome. Nobody questions your gender, why you're dressing a certain way. Everything you may have been made fun of for back in the high school cafeteria, you were now celebrated for. We love you because you have a lampshade on your head. We love you because we can't tell if you're male, female, or neither. And that is the wonder of New York nightlife. So when this whole horrible period we're going through ends, I think nightlife and music are going to come back bigger than ever in New York. And by the way, there's no rioting in New York. It's not that dangerous. I go out all the time. But the music and nightlife is going to come back big time, and I welcome everyone to come back and just be yourself.
Excellent.
It's a freeing, cathartic, and welcoming world. Well, it's an alternate universe.
It's a what?
It's an alternate universe. You enter, if you can get in, and I always was swept in because I'm pressed. But I mean, you check kind of your mind at the door and go for the world of fake lights, fake music, incredible escapism, and incredible people.
Speaking of being accepted, I read that you, back in the 80s, maybe even late 70s, you got into Studio 54. Steve RuPaul recognized you from some encounter, and you brought you right at the front, and you got in free. That was a moment for you.
Yeah, that was one of my first nightclubs. It was in the 1970s, and Steve RuPaul was very press savvy. He was the co-owner of Studio 54. He ended up going to jail for tax evasion, and he since has passed. But if he was at the door, he would pull me in, Michael. And the scene outside was like the French Revolution. Everybody on earth wanted to get in there. But if Steve wasn't at the door, there was this creepy doorman named Mark who would look down at me like I was a decaying rodent. And stand there just knowing as the longer you stayed there waiting to get in, the less your chance became. And the second runner-up club to go to was called Xenon, Xenon. Right. On 43rd Street. And it was so depressing to go there because you knew everyone there couldn't get into Studio 54.
That's fucking brilliant. But you do look. We could. I'm sure you could tell us some stories about being there. But you must have been next to Capote. Went there. Freddie Mercury went there. Everybody went there. You must have been rubbing shoulders with some of the most. Well, they were rubbing shoulders with you too. But
well, the amazing thing is the celebrities were out in the open. Once you got in, you were all equal. It wasn't easy to get in. You had to be a celebrity, be pressed, look good, know somebody. Once you were in there, Michal Jackson in his pre-agoraphobia days was actually there in the public eye. Diana Ross, Dolly Parton, Johnny Carson, Raquel Welch, Andy Warhol, Halsted, Liza Minnelli, everywhere you turned. I was dancing one night on the dance floor, and I'm like, who's this woman I'm dancing with? It was Margaux Hemingway. I was like... I was living in Brooklyn with my parents. I was a total schlub. And I'm dancing with Margaux Hemingway. And that's the kind of magic that could happen at Studio 54. And it was so incredible. This is on the main dance floor. I didn't even know there was a basement where all the celebrities went to do coke.
I bet you the bathrooms were shared, like, who cares?
Yeah, the bathroom level, the landing was the most fun part of all, because even Michael Jackson has to go to the bathroom. So you would see all these people. There was not like a private celebrity bathroom that I knew of. And then the upstairs was the balcony because it used to be a theater. It's where they shot the Ed Sullivan Show in the 60s. And if you sat down in the balcony just to have a rest between the disco songs, people would start grabbing at your crotch. I wonder if that was you.
Listen, I didn't have to go. I've played music on stage all my life, and I've always wore tight pants. It's an 80s thing. It stayed with me. And I've had girls come up and just grab a hold of me like a vice grip. You know, it's not a bad thing. It happens. I don't care. I didn't feel sexually abused. I felt it was a compliment. But listen, I'm sure, I'd certainly know I could talk to you for hours and hours and days, but I'm sure you've got places to go and people to see. But as we said earlier, we would give the Marcel Proust questionnaire a quick go. It's about 9 questions, and the idea is quick answers as you possibly can, and we just move on to the next one. Is that cool?
Is this the elephant people camera? Is it that one?
No.
That's really easy.
We'll do that next time. Okay, what is your idea of perfect happiness, Michael?
Oh, I would say barbecued steak with steak sauce, iceberg lettuce with blue cheese dressing, apple pie a la mode, coffee with 2 milks, no sugar.
Best answer, yeah. What is your greatest achievement besides being on our show?
This isn't it, really, honestly. I can't top this. But if you want an answer... really, that I became very well known and I made a lot of money writing about drag queens and transgender when that wasn't really a big thing to become famous by doing.
Brilliant. You're way ahead of your time. That's why you're an icon.
Oh, such a groundbreaker.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why, and I think I love that you're an icon. What is your greatest extravagance?
Watching good, bad, old movies. That's a pretty pathetic extravagance, but I'm obsessed with good/bad old movies. It can't be good, can't be bad. It has to be both.
Right. Like B movies.
Airport 1975, for example. Airport 75.
All right. What is your current state of mind?
I feel like I'm already dead. So it's actually a good thing. I'm not afraid of death because I feel like I'm already there.
Okay.
And I'm actually enjoying my life.
You are?
It's against all. It's almost like I've had so many meltdowns that in preparation of something bad is going on that now I'm there and I'm calm. I mean, because it's rough. We've lost people, which I went through in the 80s, losing people to AIDS in the 90s. We lost people. We've lost employment. Everything's closed except outdoor restaurants and some stores. It's very challenging. This is really character building if you survive it. So I've strangely come out of it with a calm. Like, well, I can almost survive anything if I made it through this.
Yeah. This is our Great Depression. Not to say that the Great Depression is as bad as this, but it's our Great Depression. What do you consider the most overrated virtue?
When people say someone's nice, I always think, well, what's their motivation? Usually they are nice because they want to be loved.
That's true.
But I do appreciate honest decency and goodness. I can recognize that, and that's really crucial.
Honesty, number one, honesty for me. What is the quality you most like in a person?
Oh, if they kiss my ass.
Have we done it to a good...
You have done it very well.
What words or phrases do you most overuse?
Oh, I hate all those trendy words like narrative, journey, performative, stay in your lane. I hate cliches, and when I find myself using them, I just want to die. It's awful.
I agree 100%, and that sounds like a cliche, but the worst one is the new normal. Fuck off! Like, fuck off! Don't fucking say that. I'm getting a little angry. I'm not an angry person. Okay.
Normalizing is the other thing. I hate normal.
Especially...
And I say these things.
Yeah. And if you just think a little bit, you could possibly twist and turn a phrase.
I'm a writer. That should be a possibility, yes.
Brief aside, we were watching a documentary on Joan Didion last night, the one on Netflix. God, she was so great at turning phrases. Yes,
I saw Vanessa Redgrave in a one-woman show playing Joan Didion. It was amazing.
They covered a bit of that, yeah, that was great. They both talked about losing daughters young. I'm only moving on because I know time is precious. I already said, what do you most value in your friends? Have I already said that?
Nope, not that one.
I think a loyalty, because I'm one of those people who, like, when I grew up, my parents never had another kid. We never moved. I like just sort of the calmness of staying put and being able to count on your environs. If I have a friend, and I've had some friends since Columbia College, I want them for life. And I want them to be as loyal to me as I am to them. Last
question from the Proust questionnaire. Which historical figure do you most identify with? They can be fiction if you want it to be. I don't care.
Who do I don't identify with anybody.
Okay, fuck it. We'll just go to the very last question. What is America to you, Michael Musto?
To me, what I love about America is all the things that the people who wave flags don't like, because I think they're phony patriots. I like protest. I like being able to speak your mind. I like intelligence. I like questioning our politicians. I like freedom for all. I like immigrants. I like people of color. I love the media. I love women. I love LGBTQ. These are all the things that the people who wave flags are demonizing.
Yep.
So how patriotic are they really? They don't really love America.
Well,
I do.
That's true patriotism, that you can question your government. Like, I don't like governments, and I'm going to always question. I'm never going to trust them, because they've proven they can't be trusted. So I'm with you. I hate overt patriotism. Who is it that says patriotism is the last bastion of the scoundrel? Somebody said that. Maybe it was Britney Spears. I don't know.
I think it was Proust.
Proust. Wait, so how do you say Proust? Proust?
Proust.
Damn
Yeah.
fucking accent of mine. I gotta get myself a Brooklyn accent.
I'm from Brooklyn, and they drilled it out of me. We had a speech teacher actually teaching us to say, "Do you have any brandy candy handy?" Which is supposed to drill out the Brooklyn accent. Has it? I hope I don't have it. Or
I think there's
Little bit.
a slight hint. That was like we were taught, hi, Nye, Brian Kai. Who the fuck is going to talk like that? Well, Michael, I'm glad to see you laughing. Listen, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show. It's a great honor for us.
Thank you for having me, Derek, and take care.
Thank you.
All the best.
Okay. Talk soon. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
That's the end of the show. But before we go, please subscribe to the channel, give us a like, and also we have some great interviews coming up. Derek Warfield from the legendary Wolf Tones, now Derek Warfield and the Young Wolf Tones. We also have Malachy McCourt, the author of Death Need Not Be Fatal, and A Monk Swimming. And also we are 99% sure he's agreed to do it. Sananda Maitreya has agreed to do it. An interview with us from Milan, and he speaks English, so we're all good. Look up Sananda Maitreya and you'll see who we're talking about. Absolute honour that we are going to be interviewing him. Okay, from me, your host Derek Dempsey, and from the wonderful, beautiful, talented Jessica Klee on the wrong side of the camera there, she's waving. What is America to you? Bye for now.
Driving along, minding my own business, heading east through the Kentucky rain. There on the radio, Johnny Cash was singing. I hurt myself just to see if I still feel pain. All along